Welcome back, fearless viewers. Prepare to be captivated as we dive into the abyss of darkness and encounter tales that will send shivers down your spine. In this spine-tingling compilation, we have handpicked 3 bone-chilling narratives that will haunt your dreams. So grab your headphones, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for a sleepless night of terror. Beware, once you listen, you may never look at the world the same way again. Viewer discretion is advised. Number 3. The Brave Soul. In the quiet town of Ravenbrook, nestled deep within the shadowy woods, a sense of unease had settled upon the villagers. Whispers of a chilling presence, an otherworldly entity, began to circulate, spreading fear like tendrils of mist. One moonlit night, a young woman named Emily, with raven black hair and a curious nature, decided to unravel the mystery. Armed with only a flickering lantern, she ventured into the heart of the forest. The dense foliage whispered secrets as she made her way deeper, each step carrying her farther from safety. As Emily treaded cautiously, the air grew colder, causing her breath to form ghostly puffs. An eerie silence hung heavy, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating her arrival. Soon, Emily stumbled upon an abandoned cottage, its crumbling facade peering out from the encroaching darkness. Courage mingled with trepidation as she pushed open the creaking door. The interior revealed an unsettling sight, a room frozen in time, covered in a thick layer of dust. The furniture appeared untouched for decades, as if the inhabitants had vanished without a trace. Driven by a growing sense of dread, Emily crept through the desolate dwelling. She noticed an ancient book resting on a worn-out pedestal, its pages stained and weathered. Her trembling fingers brushed against the aged parchment, and as she turned the brittle pages, a sinister tale unfurled before her eyes. The story spoke of a malevolent spirit, once human but twisted by tragedy. It detailed how the spirit preyed upon the living, feeding on their fears and slowly consuming their souls. The accounts were harrowing, hinting at a ritual that could banish the malevolence, but at a perilous cost. Overwhelmed by fear, Emily hesitated, her mind warring between curiosity and self-preservation. Yet, an inexplicable force seemed to pull her deeper into the unknown, urging her to confront the darkness head-on. With bated breath, she embarked on the treacherous path outlined within the book. Each step heightened her anxiety as shadows danced and whispered menacingly around her. The forest had become a labyrinth of nightmares, and Emily's sanity teetered on the precipice of collapse. Finally, she arrived at a forgotten altar, adorned with cryptic symbols and surrounded by a profound stillness. A flicker of realization ignited within her. The ritual required her to sacrifice a cherished memory, an offering of her essence, to bind the spirit and sever its hold on the living. Summoning every ounce of courage, Emily made her choice. Tears mingled with determination as she released her beloved memories into the void, watching them dissolve into nothingness. In that moment, the forest exhaled a chilling sigh and a shiver ran down her spine. The world around Emily shifted, colors fading to gray as if the life force within her had been drained. The malevolent spirit materialized, its gaze filled with ancient malice. But as its ethereal fingers reached out, a blinding light erupted from Emily's sacrificed memories, enveloping the specter in searing brilliance. With a scream that echoed through the woods, the spirit vanished, leaving Emily alone and weakened. She stumbled back to the safety of Ravenbrook, forever changed by her encounter with the supernatural. And so the townsfolk lived on, their fears subsiding, but the memory of that haunted forest forever etched in their minds. They spoke of the brave young woman who faced the darkness, and in doing so became part of the chilling lore that haunted Ravenbrook for generations to come. Number 2. The Strange Man. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite, but all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrol parked quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was the silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off of him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time staring at him, and then he started moving toward me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone. Except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there completely frozen as the smiling man crept toward me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me. Still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask was, "What do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper. What? Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started dance-walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go until he was far enough away to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off of the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane, and that's a very, very scary thing to see. Number 1. Please help me. 30 hours ago, I hopped on a late-night flight from New York heading to Los Angeles. After boarding, I saw that I had an entire row to myself. Takeoff passed without incident, and soon I was stretched out for a nap across the row. I slept for a few hours, I don't know how long, but I woke up to some severe turbulence. It's possible that the lights in the cabin went out for a moment, but I was so disoriented that it's hard to say. I checked my phone to see that it was 4:03 a.m., which I figured gave me about an hour until we landed. When I looked out my window, I was shocked to see nothing but wide open ocean. My jaw dropped. There's obviously no ocean between New York and Los Angeles. I hit the button to call the flight attendant and spent the next few minutes racking my brain for a lake that could have been possibly been big enough to explain what I was seeing. I jumped when the attendant flipped off the light. She was grinning from ear to ear and tears were pouring down her cheeks. "How can I help you, sir?" she asked. I froze for a moment at her reaction before deciding to just ask my question. "Where are we? Why does it look like we're flying over an ocean?" She wiped her cheeks to clear the tears, still grinning wildly. "Sir, we'll be landing in about an hour." Okay, thank you," I said. After she left, I checked the clock on my phone again. 4:03 a.m. blinked back at me. It hadn't changed. I had to have been waiting with my call light on for at least 5 minutes. How was it possible that it hadn't changed at all? I opened up my laptop and saw it too displayed 4:03 a.m. I pulled out my phone, started a stopwatch in the app, and spent the next 2 hours looking back and forth between the clocks, waiting for them to change. They never did. I tapped the shoulder of an older woman sitting in the row ahead of me. She looked back, an annoyed expression across her face. "Yes," she asked. "Do you know how long until we land?" I asked. She narrowed her eyes. That flight attendant said it would be about another hour. I shook my head in confusion. That flight attendant? We talked almost 2 hours ago. We should have landed already. She stared at me as if I was crazy. I was going to continue trying to convince her, but I felt a hand on my shoulder. I spun to see a male flight attendant grinning down at me, tears pinging off his cheeks onto my shoulder. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to calm down or I'll be calling the captain." I told him that wouldn't be necessary and sat back. He removed his hand and stepped away. The flight attendants continued to stop by every few hours offering meals. My stopwatch continued to tick up and is now telling me that I've been on this plane for more than 30 hours. I've explored all of coach and tried talking to some of the other passengers, but they all told me that they're expecting to land in an hour or so. Around 3 hours ago, I tried getting into first class. I made it past the curtain but was escorted back by 2 grinning flight attendants. Their grip on my arms were like iron. "Sir, the seatbelt sign is on," one said. "Please remain in your seat with your buckle fastened. We'll be landing in about an hour." I'd just about given up hope when a woman came down the aisle dressed in a business suit. She didn't look at me or slow down, but she dropped a piece of paper onto my tray as she made her way to the bathrooms at the back of the plane. I shot a look around before unrolling it. It said, "Are you stuck too?" I pulled out a pen and wrote, "Yes, it's been 30 hours." I folded the scrap of paper up and set it on the tray closest to the aisle. She left the bathroom and picked it up as she passed. It's been 20 minutes since then. I don't know why, but I don't think the flight attendants would like it if they knew we were talking. It doesn't matter. I have to do something. If I don't, then I am stuck on this jet over the ocean. I have no idea where I am, but please help if you can. So there you have it. Thank you for listening to the 3 bone-chilling stories before bed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Spooky Lab. Also, feel free to like our Facebook page, The Spooky Lab. Join us next time for 3 more scary stories to listen to before bed.